Let's just run over those grim facts again. Inflation will hit 7 times the official target. A year of recession on the way. I appreciate there are outside causes and effects of that. I get it. The Ukraine war and everything else, I understand. And soaring interest rates. The failed, I would suggest, Governor of the Bank of England, who for many now has been found that he was asleep at the wheel at the time that he needed to take decisive action as the nation emerged out of COVID or lockdown. Expert analysis in a moment, but of course, it's you that's going to feel the pain on your mortgage. And I appreciate if you live on savings. There is the other argument, but if you'll let me be a little bit crude in my analysis, I'm sure you, Grandad, don't want to see your grandchildren struggling to pay their mortgage or even handing back the keys and you get a little bit extra on your savings. I doubt that you particularly want to see that. Here is the failed Andrew Bailey.
CPI inflation is now expected to peak at just over 13% in Q4 of this year and to remain at very elevated levels throughout much of 2023. The bulk of that further increase reflects higher wholesale prices feeding through to retail energy prices, with a further large rise in the Ofgem price gap projected in October. I recognise the significant impact this will have and how difficult the cost of living challenge will continue to be for many people in the United Kingdom. Inflation hits the least well-off hardest. But if we don't act to prevent inflation becoming persistent, the consequences later will be worse.
It's not often I refer to Greta Thunberg, but it's just blah, 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 isn't it, as she would say. Here he is, the Grim Reaper, talking about a recession.
GDP growth in the UK has slowed and the economy is now forecast to enter recession later this year. So this is a very uncomfortable situation to be in. We're very aware of the impact it has, therefore, on those who are least well off. What I would emphasise or re-emphasise is a point I made in my opening remarks, and it's this. If we don't bring inflation back to target, bearing in mind the huge scale of the energy shock we're seeing, if we don't bring it back to target, and if we get these so-called second-round effects entering in, it's going to get worse. And it will get worse precisely, I'm afraid, for those who are least well off in society.
As Andrew Bailey speaking yesterday, expert comment in a moment. Now, my level of economics extends from a fairly decentish grade to A level, and that's about it. But shall we turn to Professor Danny Blanchflower, who sat on the bank's MPC Monetary Policy Committee as an external advisor from 2006 to 2009. He described it yesterday as the worst day for the British economy in my lifetime. He said that the Bank of England's argument for raising interest rates to combat soaring inflation and predicting a recession was valued at nil. He claims their actions were driven by political pressure, incompetence and groupthink. Not me, Professor Blanchflower, who was on the bank's Monetary Policy Committee for a number of years.